We dedicate this season to friend of the pod, Christian Salisbury. A life and talent taken from the herd way too early. He will be remembered for his speed and agility, but most of all his smile and infectious enthusiasm. If you're able, go to the link in the description and donate to the Christian Salisbury Memorial Fund and help more kids like Christian find their way to professional football. Carry that rock in peace, my friend. You will be missed.
Who it is. This is a brotherhood. And if we stand strong together, we can't be denied. If one of us goes down, we have another, and another, and another that's ready to fight. So let's hit this field and bang them, bang them, bang them. Somebody, light me up.
It's time to huddle up. It's the Turf District Podcast. Welcome back to the Turf District, where we huddle up to talk all things Edmonton Elks and the CFL. And we're a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network. I'm Andrew, and it's Turf District Tuesdays. Welcome back to the district. If you have joined us on YouTube Live, thank you for joining us there. If you've downloaded the podcast or you're listening to us on Edmonton Sports Talk Radio, thank you so much for joining us and tuning in to listen to the show as we get ready for one of the most exciting weeks of the entire year if you're a Canadian football fan, and that is Grey Cup week. We had a couple of very exciting finals. Well, to me, one was more exciting than the other, but we'll talk about that in just a second. The regular crew, unfortunately, are out this evening just due to different things pulling them in different directions. But I brought in a couple of wonderful guests for us to set up this week and the fun game that's about to happen. So let's bring them in right now. Starting first, going way out east from the Alouettes flight deck, one Mr. Tim Capper back to join us. Well done. I don't know if you did it exactly. You need a little more jazz hands.
It's an Eastern thing, you know.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay, that's fair.
Remember, our moose speak French, so.
Oh, is that what it is? Excellent.
Yeah, right.
Oh, I appreciate you coming in for this, Tim. I know it's late for you, and I know you're getting ready for a busy week, but thank you for joining us and joining us from the United States. But obviously, as you can see, wearing his very supportive blue and gold hat, Joe Pritchard from the Rouge, White, and Blue podcast. How are you, Joe?
Oh, I'm great. I actually did my packing tonight, and I'm going to have to leave a few of my blue and gold things home. I just don't have enough room in my suitcase anymore.
You've finally outgrown the suitcase. That's we knew it was going to happen. I know I had to be a bit selective myself as I was packing this week. I guess in a few days we'll all be in the same city to hang out and talk in person. In the meantime, we need to talk a little bit about what is going on this week. Before we get into the games that just happened, Tim, when do you get into the hammer this week?
I'm taking Canada's national carrier Via Rail. I'm getting in on Friday evening.
Friday evening. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And Joe, when do you arrive?
I'll be arriving on Thursday afternoon.
All right, perfect. And I am joining. I should be there around just after lunchtime tomorrow. So we've got a big crew of people. Kayla will be out on Thursday. I know Cliffy's already there. So, I mean, there's going to be a ton of us there. I am so excited, guys. This is my first going back to Grey Cup since 2019. And it just... I'm just so stoked to see the whole CFL family and you guys and the rest of the people as we get to hang out and do our celebration of Canadian football. So this is super exciting. Well, let's talk about the games from this past weekend, and then we can get into this week. So Tim, you guys had the early game, and
Mhm.
I said it in my 3-down article. I just had a feeling the way Coach Moss had these guys ready to go. And not only did they pull off the upset, they upset with the upset. So I know you were at the game. So tell us what it was like to be there and witness that game.
I was trying to gauge what it was because we were at the East Final last year again, against the Argos also, but um, it was so surreal because you go in with a team. Everybody's calling you a team of destiny. They're one of the best CFL teams ever. It matches the best record for a regular season record ever. And then you have all the prognosticators that's saying there's no way in hell, ... And then there's the line. It was what 10.5 points or something like that.
It's
It
10 and a
was,
half. Yep.
yeah, 10.5 points. And it was, yes, I understand that some people said that it would take not necessarily a miracle, but a perfect game. But man, it's just something. It started off the way it needed to. I mean, the pick six by DeQuad just it was the catalyst for everything else that happened in this game.
I
And
agree.
it got uh it quieted the crowd. I mean, for Toronto only to score a touchdown in the fourth quarter, what the hell? I mean, but they did what they needed to do. They stopped who they needed to stop, and Chad Kelly, as I joked on social media, local 7-Elevens were after the game were able to come out with a marketing idea where if you buy a Slurpee, you get one of the Toronto Argonauts cups, you get your flavor of choice, but it also came with a little bit of Chad Kelly tears. So it was,
he was pretty upset. Granted, fair.
yeah,
I mean, it's funny, I know you said this when we met before the semifinals, where you said, no 16 win team in any league has made it to the championship game, and
yeah,
16-2 is a curse, I tell you. And don't I know that?
yeah.
So
Yeah.
all of the Toronto fans will now be saying forevermore that they canceled the Grey Cup in 2023, much like they did in 1989. That's fair. It's perfectly fine. Joe, you'll probably agree with me that they canceled it in 1989 because, we don't ever want to give another cup to that other green team. So, but I agree with you, Capper, though. The Argos marched down the field,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden the turnaround, right? 103-yard interception pick, just unbelievable. It really did set the tone. And I thought, oh, okay, well, that's good. Okay, let's see how it goes. And even at halftime, I believe it was 10-3 at halftime.
It was 10-3. And the interesting thing at halftime, the Owls had the Argos had 4 turnovers. The Owls
Mhm.
only had scored 7 points off of those 4 turnovers, but yet also the Argos had 5 sacks at that time. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, what can we do? Because we ran to their social media guru for the Owls, Joey Alfieri. We went up to the press box, and even he said, first thing out of his mouth after seeing us was, "We got 4 turnovers. We have 7 points.
Right.
We've got to do it.
Like,
We've got to do a lot better than that." And as I mentioned to Cliff on the pod this week, we can only imagine what was said at halftime. We can only imagine just to flip that switch kind of type of thing, but the offense really had to have that switch flip because of the defense for the past couple of weeks. It just,
oh, they've been lights out.
oh,
And
it's been crazy.
And Toronto in the fourth quarter, they get that long drive, they score the touchdown. And it's so funny because I said to my wife it was probably about 3 minutes left in the third quarter, and I said, I can't believe it. I'm actually going to be the one on 3 down that was right. I picked Montreal, and this is unbelievable. And then Toronto got that touchdown. I'm like, what was I saying? Oh, why did I say that so early? And the kickoff
Yeah,
return goes all the way back.
James Letcher. Yeah.
Unbelievable. Like, so it
Did you
was
have deja vu when you saw that, by the way?
oh, well,
I mean, he kind of did the same thing when we were there to see you guys.
Yeah, you don't say. That was on a missed field goal, though. That was on a missed field goal. It was very different.
Yeah.
Still sad, but thanks for rubbing the salt in that wound. I do appreciate it.
My thing about that, by the way, is because I've come to know it to me is ever since Boris Bede left Montreal, he's been a cop. In my opinion, he's become a cocky SOB.
Okay.
He just got run over by the Alouettes defenders on that kick return, and I was like, yes.
It was amazing, and setting up also after the game the speech by Moss, interview that turned into a post game speech. Just love it. I said it before. I know Moss had his moments as a rookie head coach and the antics and all those things, but he's obviously put those aside, and we know he's a great leader. I really am excited for him to get there. And if they hadn't already put the vote out, and I thought this before, Moss should have got coach of the year. He took a team that everyone had placed in last, and now they're playing in the Grey Cup. So
yeah, this is Coach Moss he's a Cliff and I've mentioned this before too, is that for me is that some people forget that Moss was traded to Montreal back in 2007. So he was our quarterback, and he's a different guy, because most people may not remember that coach in 2007, he almost basically balked at the trade to come to Montreal. He wasn't sure if he was going to report. This guy, from this type of quarterback to where he went from being a different head coach and OC to what he is now, night and day.
Yep.
And he's got this mantra this year, this great 8 mantra. I don't know if anybody has noticed that they had this little patch that Coach Moss made up, and it's a patch that's basically like a team motto. And they followed it from day one. And besides Coach Moss, we have to give it for Danny Mac. Danny Machocha. They're near. Now, do you guys agree that? And I'm biased this year saying it, but overall, do you not think that there needs to be an award for best GM of the year?
100%. Yep.
Yeah,
I mean,
because if there was that, he would have earned it. And he got a lot of flack last year for the way things went down early in the season, making the change from Kari Jones and taking the role himself. But clearly, he had a vision for what this team was supposed to be, and something wasn't adding up. So he made the change he had to make, took the heat, dealt with it, came out this year when nobody was believing in them, and put together a roster that's doing what it's doing. It's just incredible.
It was like an expansion franchise, basically. It was
to
like
some
an expansion.
degree, yeah.
To some degree, yeah.
Yeah, no, it was, it's pretty wild, and I'm going to get your thoughts as we get into this week right away, but let's switch gears for 1 second, because there was another game on Saturday that Joe enjoyed more than either of the two of us. So that's amazing, because once again, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are headed back to the Grey Cup for the 4th year in a row. Joe, tell me a little bit about what you thought as you were watching that game from home.
4th season in a row.
4th season, correct. Sorry.
I wouldn't even complain. It's been since 2018 that my team hasn't been in the Grey Cup. I mean, nobody can complain about that. So,
fair.
Right. So, I was expecting a little bit more, honestly, out of BC.
Okay.
Because this was supposed to be the year that they were going to be a big threat to Winnipeg. Started off the season that way. They looked like world beaters for the first third of the season, almost the halfway point. Had a chance in Vancouver, if you remember, about a month ago. The rubber match between the two teams was in Vancouver, and they had a big lead. And then Winnipeg just chipped away. And that defense kept them from losing that lead for as long as they possibly could, because they kept taking the ball away in the red zone. But the offense sputtered, and overtime happened, and Winnipeg ended up winning the West that night. Basically, anyway. So they come out, and they can't get their offense going again. The one touchdown they had was the Hail Mary at the end, but it seemed like all they wanted to do was throw the ball 30 yards down the field every play, which
I agree.
just doesn't make any sense. I mean, the weather wasn't a factor. Everybody wanted to make that a storyline going into the game. It was November, but it was November. It wasn't. We're not talking a blizzard here. We're not talking about temperatures even far below freezing. It just they came out with a game plan of let's throw the ball down the field 30 yards every play, and that just didn't work out. So Winnipeg was able to run a very conservative game plan. They were able to run the ball behind Brady Oliveira for the first drive and just maul their way down the field. After that, BC took that away, but Zach Collaros didn't have to make any spectacular throws. He made a couple of nice ones to Kenny Lawler, but he didn't have to put the ball in jeopardy. He was able to be very cautious with the ball. Even when the Hail Mary hit, Winnipeg was still up a touchdown at the half and really were never threatened again.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I was surprised that there wasn't just more of an attempt for a running game coming from BC. I know Mizell has had up and down games, and I know that obviously that front seven in Winnipeg is fierce, but Adam Bighill gets hurt. You need to shake it up a little bit. Like you've been going the long bomb all game. Throw a run play in. There was like no
made at all.
No, there was no 5-yard dump. Nothing.
No, nothing. There was no outlet passes. There was no, hey, let's get Mizell in the flat and see if he can turn this into a long running play instead of running between the tackles. But nothing of the sort, and no adjustments made when the long ball wasn't there.
And VA was kept in check for the entire game. I mean, you take away basically VA's passing and his running game. You've got to do. Yeah, I agree with you, Joe. You got to do something else.
Right, and he was dealing with a knee injury. We could all see it, but when that's going on, when his feet aren't a threat, you've got to put something else out in the short areas of the field to make Winnipeg respect that. They didn't have to line up a defender inside of 10 yards downfield that whole game if they didn't want to.
Yeah, no, very true. And it was just and they got to VA a lot. It was kind of the old BC Lions offensive line, which didn't help. And
I don't even blame the offensive line at all. I mean, there's a few of the plays where they got in pretty quickly. Winnipeg's front four and their blitzing package is really, really good. I'm not gonna deny that, but that wasn't a 10-sack effort, except for the fact that there was no attempt to have a short passing game, no attempt for draw plays, screen plays, anything to slow it down. And then sometimes you'd have the ball for 4 or 5 seconds. You're begging for it at that point.
Well, yeah, pretty much. And the thing is, if you're going to go long pass after long pass, it means you've got to hang on to the ball. And VA held on to it way longer than he should have a number of times. And he wasn't taking off himself, which, like you said, we could tell he was dealing with something. Also, one of your
to be the running threat, but he wasn't.
Right. And they also lost one of their top receivers in Keon Hatcher out of the game, being literally carried off the field. It's it was tough to watch. I was hoping that it would, because that first game, I understand it was a blowout, but it was just entertaining because you didn't expect it and there was big plays. And in the second game, it was all, like you said, just efficient, score, win game, great. Like there wasn't a real big pushback. Do you know what I mean, on either side? So
and Winnipeg didn't have to, so they didn't put the ball in jeopardy. They took what was given. They even got a little bit less than they usually do because Sergio Castillo was a little bit off. Right. Left a few points on the board, but then that's fairly unusual, so it's really not worth mentioning too much more. But that score could have been even wider.
Well, and that usually means that he's going to have a bounce back game, and
I would hope so.
good time to
Yes.
have a bounce back game, as they say. So, we didn't actually mention it. Montreal won 38-17. Winnipeg won 24-13, and that sets up for this week in the Hammer. But before we talk about the game, we got to talk about all the festivities that are coming beforehand. So we all said we're coming in at different times. Capper, is this your second Grey Cup? Third? Where are you
No, it's
at
my
now?
first one since Ottawa.
Okay,
I think
okay.
this is number 5 for
Okay.
me.
Okay, but it has been a while for you too.
Yes,
So
yeah.
so I get it. Both your teams are in the game, so I understand that's what you're looking forward to the most. But what are you looking forward to as far as the Grey Cup experience and the week and all of the parties leading up to the Grey Cup game?
To me, just I, obviously seeing you guys earlier this year, just being able to meet up again with you guys and meet up with everybody, and it's a CFL. It's the easy answer. It's a CFL family because there are a lot of people I don't know. There are a lot of people who know me specifically just from the pod or being on with you guys or whatever. So it's putting face to a face in actual, being physically across from each other and stuff like that. But that's just really what I'm looking forward to. I mean, there are a few people I know in the league too that I know that are going to be there that I'll be able to meet up with again. And the CFL is Canada's biggest party. It really, really is. I mean, unless there's, the Olympics are going on that year, but I mean, it's one giant party. People come from across the country. As they say, coast to coast to coast. It doesn't matter if you wear green. It doesn't matter if you wear blue or you wear red, white, and blue or whatever color you wear. So I mean, that's after the fact, or if you had one too many, I guess. But I mean, it's, but again, I'm looking forward to seeing every single one of you guys here and everybody else who may be watching the pod this week. And it's going to be fun. It really is going to be fun. I mean, I may be an introvert, but it's still, if I know enough people, you'll be able to keep me there, and we'll be able to talk to her blue in the face. So,
oh, that's fantastic. I actually just noticed that you had the. I love that shirt you're wearing with the logo on it. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool one. I like that one. Joe, you've been to a number of Grey Cups because I know that's where I always get to see you. So, what are you looking forward to the most outside of the game this week?
Well, yeah, this would be number 7, I believe. So I've been
Nice.
I've been hitting them pretty hard since 2015. Had one in 06 when I was first learning the league. But yeah, the only ones I missed were 17 and 21. And 21, I couldn't even get in the country. So that was that was kind of out at that point. So yeah, well, I mean, I'm looking forward to exactly what Tim was talking about with just meeting people, but there's always a specific events you're looking forward to too.
Mm-hmm.
When is this on Edmonton Sports Talk? Thursday nights, I believe.
Thursday night, that is correct.
Because I'll probably be at the Spirit of Edmonton on Thursday night. That seems to be our group's tradition, is Spirit on Thursday night. Looking forward to the tweet up that's set up with the CFLPA.
Mm-hmm.
Looking forward to the CFL Fans Fight Cancer event, and I even got an invite to the Athletes in Action breakfast on Saturday morning. So
nice.
I'll be enjoying that, and whatever else comes along.
And the CFL Fans Fight Cancer event is Saturday afternoon, I believe.
Yeah, I want to say it's like 1 o'clock or
1
something.
o'clock, yeah. Oh, so that's like right after nap time after the Spirit of Edmonton breakfast for me. Mm-hmm. So that'll work out well.
And the Spirit of Edmonton breakfast is on my bucket list at some point, but I haven't gotten there yet, except for us being invited in with the Wandering Glens a few years ago. That's the only time I've been able to walk in there. So
okay. Tim, have you experienced the Spirit of Edmonton breakfast yet?
No, I have not.
Oh my goodness. All right. So this is my 8th Grey Cup. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I've been to Spirit now. This will be my 4th time. And I will tell anybody it's well worth it because I know it's an expensive ticket, but it is so worth it. There is nothing like being tipsy at 10 o'clock in the morning. I can tell you that right now. That is what Grey Cup week is all about. And
I mean, you can't drink all day if you don't start early, right?
correct. Yeah. And the first time I experienced one was in 2016. And I immediately went after that and recorded a podcast. It was very interesting. I can tell you that because, yeah, it was a little touch giddy. There was a lot of sociables going on.
I got to go back into the archives and listen to that.
Correct.
Me
Yes.
too.
Yeah. Roll that back. That'll be lots of fun. It's it's pretty wild. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to the CFL alumni luncheon that I was able to get a ticket to this year. Thank you to Linda for that, and of course hanging out with everybody. Wednesday night, the meet and greet. Thursday night, Spirit of Edmonton. Friday, the alumni luncheon and more, the tweet up, of course. Saturday, the Spirit of Edmonton breakfast, the CFL Fans Fight Cancer event, and then hitting to whatever other party room we haven't hit as of yet. And then, of course, Sunday, the game. So let's talk about the game, because that's the highlight. That's why we're going to be there. And I know who you guys are picking, but still, I'm still going to I still want to talk to you about it. So Joe, we'll start with you this time.
Why we're picking it?
Yeah. It's kind of why I brought you here. So I just mostly want you guys to trash talk each other, and it's going to be kind of fun. So and we will get to some questions in the chat right away. So if you have any questions for us, throw them into the chat right now, and we'll get to those after we talk about the big game. So Joe, I did see one part in the chat already where they were asking about Big Hill and if he's going to play, and it sounds like he's in a walking boot, so probably less likely that he is going to play. But tell us what does the Bombers have to do to win this one, going back again for their fourth season in a row, winning 2 out of the 3 they've been there so far.
I think if they play almost the same game as they played last week, they're going to be in good shape. Just be conservative on offense. Don't let Montreal's playmakers make plays. Keep the ball away from the ball hawking secondary. Don't let Zach stay back in the pocket too long. If you're gonna do a long pass play, roll them out. Keep them away from the pressure. Just be conservative on offense, honestly, because Montreal's offense hasn't saw Winnipeg's defense yet this year. The 2 games that they've played, one was in a pouring rainstorm, and then the aftermath of that. So maybe it wasn't the best, but they scored 3 points. And then besides 2 pick sixes, they scored another 3 points. So they didn't get a lot going against Winnipeg's defense. So I would say just trust the defense. Call a defense that's going to keep Cody Fajardo hopping around the pocket. Don't turn the ball over on offense. Don't give them that big play right away that gets them fired up like Toronto did last week. So be careful on special teams, because special teams has been a liability for the Bombers this year, which is unusual. Just don't let them have that spark early, and just kind of slowly be a boa constrictor. Just slowly choke them out as the game goes on.
Be a boa constrictor. It's the name of the podcast. Sounds like it could be a lot of things. Tim, how does Montreal win this game?
Well, I think, it's funny how there are so many similarities. I mean, this defense has to be continuing to play how it has the entire year. They haven't always had the pick sixes, there's no way that I can fathom that that Winnipeg is going to have 9 turnovers.
Yes.
Like Toronto did last week.
Not likely. Yeah.
No. But I want to be, for me, my concern is that I think that the offense needs to get that spark somehow. They need to get out, just especially after this past week. I mean, Cody led the team in rushing this past week. Stanback was, I think he had an average of 1.6. And that has to improve. Yes, Stanback was able to do it on the screen passes. He did a hell of a job there. But Cliff and I have been calling Fajardo the entire season consistent Cody. That's what he's been, because it's been 5 or 6 incompletions, maybe just over 200 yards and a touchdown and maybe an interception. So it's Cody needs to, I think, to have his game of the year. But yet I think that if the defense can basically follow up with what they did last week, this coming week, I think it'll be a low scoring affair, especially with these two type of defense. But
Agreed.
it's this. I think this game's going to be fun. I don't know what to expect. I think people actually are going into this game more with respect for the Alouettes. And that's one thing that the Owls have not gotten the entire year.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So it's gonna be a fun game, but again, the defense needs to make sure. Caleros is one hell of a quarterback. He really is. They got to control him. I'm throwing both of the games out from this year because as we saw just this past week, anything happens in the postseason. Anything can happen. So
it's one game. It's
yeah.
one game, and it doesn't matter what else has happened. It's that one game. And I agree with you that the defenses on both sides are very strong. It's going to be very interesting to see how the defenses play out. There's that part of me though that I'm going, well, it's Darnell Sankey said it. He's going to come in, they're going to win a bunch of games, and they're going to get to the Grey Cup and they're going to win it. And it's just that defense is playing on another level. It's very exciting. So I think that it could be an exciting defensive game, because we have had a couple of defensive games that are like, oh, but these are both two very good defenses. So I'm excited to see that. If I had to lay an advantage on the offensive side, I would probably give it to Winnipeg right now, just because they have been able to move the ball in a lot of games. And I understand we just said other games don't matter, but they do find a way to move the ball when they need to and get those points. But on special teams, I would give it to Montreal. So I think, and the defense it's basically a line down the middle. Like they're both amazing defenses. So I'm not it is a lot closer game to call than I think we have had, or what we might think it would have been earlier in the season. But I will throw in my pick right now that defense is playing on another level. Coach Moss has them fired up, and I am excited for Coach Moss and for Armando Sewell. So that's where I'm throwing my hat in, is along with you, Tim Capper. Not that I'm against you, Joe, but you guys have had your turn.
That people are sick of us by now.
Correct. This is what everyone was saying about Edmonton in the early 80s. Like, no, they've had their turn. Like, that's enough. Like, and when you're the fan, you're like, no, we got to win every year. But so for you, I hope they win. But if I'm picking, I'm gonna pick the Alouettes. So, Capper, I assume that you're picking the Alouettes.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So, why don't we do this a little bit differently? We'll get a prop bet for each team, and then you guys can tell me over and under. So, on the Montreal side of things, I think one of the things that kind of has plagued them, although it did get better as the season went on, but one of the things that has plagued them is getting sacked. So,
yes.
So, on the Winnipeg side, Joe, I will say sacks for Winnipeg, and I'll set the line at 4.5. Are you going to go over or under?
About where I thought. I'll say over, but I'm not expecting 10 like last week.
I didn't think so. Yeah. But I knew that would be a good
it.
Yeah.
But I'm not expecting it either.
All right, Capper, what do you think on that one?
Well, I go back to the first half versus the second half versus Toronto. Gave up 5 in the first. They only gave up 2 in the second. So I would probably give an over, also slight over, also to that prop bet. So
okay. All right, we'll see what happens there. Now, on the other side of the ball, on the Montreal side of the ball, let's have some fun with this, because Montreal, in the last probably, I want to say 6 games, all of a sudden have become an interception machine. So, interceptions for Montreal. And I am going to set the line at 1.5. Tim, going over or under?
As soon as you started to say it, my first thought into my head was 2.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you'll go over. All right. Joe, Zach has protected the ball very well. You said that earlier. Going to go over or under on 1.5 interceptions for Montreal.
I would say if it's under, Montreal's going to have a very hard time winning this game. So I'm going to say under.
Okay. All right. That's very interesting. All right. So it'll be a fun game on Sunday. I'm going to scroll back and see if we've got a couple of questions to pull up here for you, gentlemen. Let me just see there. Oh, excellent. Leanne was already asking Cliff how his liver was holding up, if he was ready for this week. So that's perfect. And Cliff promptly responded, "I don't get ready, I stay ready." So that's how we get going in there. I realize now that on my flight tomorrow morning is Chris Agar will be on the flight with me, so I get to spend some of the last hours with him with hair. So that's exciting. That'll be fun when we get to. We will be live streaming that, by the way, when the time comes. We will find a spot to make sure that we get that on video for you. Also, Kayla and I are trying to work out a couple of times where we'll be able to bring a couple of events to you, or some updates as on how Grey Cup week is going. Cliffy did say what struck me about Chad Kelly and company was that they simply had no response for that sudden onset of adversity. They never truly had any problems this season, and we've seen that before. And both of the teams that made it to the Grey Cup have had some adversity this year. I know Winnipeg still had a really good winning record, but they definitely had some adversity they had to face this year. So it's a little bit different than where they once were. Then there's a lot here about Big Hill and where he's at, which we already chatted about, so we won't do that. Okay, if anybody has any other questions.
I will say there is that it looked like he was out of the boot today, based off of social media reports.
Okay.
And Schoen was out of a boot too. I don't know if whether either of them are going to play. They did not practice.
Yeah.
But just knowing Coach O'Shea, the way I've been able to follow him the last decade at this point, he's not going to say anything he doesn't have to. So it's going to be a possibility that they'll dress until they can't.
That's what I've had to learn to with Coach Moss this year. Is that he keeps things. The only way that I will know something or Cliff will know something is our post game talks to any of the particular players. But we, like Coach Moss does, it's funny. We keep it to ourselves because it's all part of the game. Why? We'll call it a lower body injury, even if we know exactly what the injury is. We'll just keep it that way.
Yeah, I had Coach Moss here, so I knew that was going to happen, and I have watched, Coach O'Shea do the same thing. They don't like to tell anybody. Interesting question, actually, that came up at the media State of the League today, which was that are they going to become a little more transparent as far as injuries are concerned? When you look at other leagues, that the next day you not only have what the injury is, what the extent is, how long they're going to be out, all those types of things. And I thought the commissioner answered it as best he could in that situation, which is, it's not really up to me, but the conversations need to be had. Yeah, no kidding.
If you keep making gambling more.
I was just about to say, he didn't want to piss off his gambling partners.
You have to.
Yeah.
Don't piss off Regal.
Yeah, at some point they're going to have to. So it'll be interesting. Okay, we did have a couple of questions coming in here from Mischievous Wolf. What are your thoughts on Chad Kelly just walking off the field? And I wasn't sure whether we want to talk about this or not, but Tim, you're there. Did you even know it happened, or did you?
No. I think we found it later after the fact. But to me, come on, you're a pro. Act like one. Whether you throw one interception or you throw 4 in your case, in his case rather, come on. I mean, I think Cliff and I immediately went to the highlights from the BC Winnipeg game. And what did VA do after?
right
Went
over.
to his opposing quarterback.
Yep.
Chad Kelly, just grow up.
Yeah, I understand being frustrated and being upset. Doesn't matter. How many times did my team get beat this year? And what they did is went over and shook hands and then left the field, right? There wasn't anybody that turned and hightailed it for the locker room. Like come on, that it's pretty unsportsmanlike. Joe, did you catch that before the Bomber game?
I didn't catch it before. I caught it when everybody else started talking about it. I would say, yeah, I would be in agreement. That's what you're supposed to do. It's what you have to do. Like the only defense that could be put up for that is that we go back to Toronto not facing any adversity whatsoever this season. So the shock of it and the fact that he's been a starting quarterback for how long, and that's the first time he just got run off the field. Okay.
So he literally ran off the field.
We will find out next year because they're going to face more adversity next year. It's a guarantee. There's no way they're going 16-2 again that cleanly, unless they're unless they're just going to keep doing it. I can't. 16-2 is just really, really good. We're going to see the next time he comes up against adversity whether he's learned something from this or not. Yeah. And if he hasn't, well, then it's a lot easier to go, yeah, that's just terrible.
Yeah, no, I agree. Not my favorite thing, that's for sure. Chris was asking, Andrew, is the live stream dubbed the Domecast? Well, it is now. We're gonna 100% call it, or should we call it Return to Domecast or something? We could. There's got to be like a Thunderdome reference that we could put in there. I'm sure of it. I'll figure it out. It's been the Domecast for a year and a half with me. So what the heck? Leanne asks, question for Tim and Joe. What does the CFL family way mean to you? Joe, let's start with you.
Well, there's a reason I've gone to 7 Grey Cups, right?
Yep.
I mean, it's what attracts me to. I was drawn in by the fact it was a different game, but I stayed for the people. And it really helps that my team is really, really good right now. It makes it a lot easier to smile and watch every game and enjoy every second of it. But when I first really took the deep dive into it, my team was absolutely awful. And it was still a whole lot of fun because the people were just that good.
Fantastic. What about you, Capper?
It's just, because for me, I think it's just so unique. It really is. I mean, I came from a spot where, from other leagues that I've watched before, where it's so similar to the CFL family, so similar, and it's just, I feel like I'm just gonna be regurgitating what I said earlier. It's just so special. It really is. It's because it's no matter where you're from. Brother, can you spare $1? That type of, that's the way that it is. I could go to either one of you or anybody. Guys, I'm short on something. I'll pay you back. And there's no problem. There's no, unless it's beer, I guess, or a drink.
Yeah, don't give me that back. You can have it. It's fine.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's just so unique. I just love when the CFL family. It's, as I said, for an introvert like myself, I'm not the type of guy who really likes the tailgating and stuff like that. But I've like this year, I've learned to love it. I got to experience what you guys do every year. So it's just something. It's just something special. It's hard sometimes to put into words what the CFL family is if you've never been a part of it. If you've never had the experience. So.
The CFL family is walking down a street in Montreal, ducking under an awning because it decided to downpour on your way to the stadium, and having like 4 different fan bases represented out of 6 people. That's the CFL family for me.
Yeah. Oh, the thing is that I look at it. It is. You said, Tim, it's so different. I have. I've followed NFL. I've I've followed hockey. I've followed some of these other leagues. Never in a million years would you have people representing 4 or 5 teams sitting at a table and be enjoying the conversation. Like it just doesn't happen, right? And in the CFL family, it does. It's expected. It's part of being part of this league, and we all cheer for the game, and we happen to cheer for different teams, and that's not a problem. So
Yeah, I live on a
love
fault
it.
line between NFL fan bases where I'm at. We're equidistant between the CBSs for when you needed an antenna to get them. So half of this area for a while was Minnesota Vikings fans, and half was Green Bay Packers fans. And no, there's a level of nastiness there that just doesn't really exist in the CFL.
Yeah, well, and we have rivalries still, obviously. You know,
There's rivalries, but
Toronto and
there's
Hamilton, Edmonton,
edge.
Calgary, like that. You know, there are rivalries. There's no doubt about it. But that doesn't mean that I wouldn't, sit down with a number of those Calgary fans and have a grand old time, right? Like, okay, yeah, I know your team was good. Shut up. Let's have a beer and talk about something else.
And you've had rival couples marry each other,
right?
In the CFL.
Uh-huh.
I mean, and I think it's more than teams too. The CFL family is also not necessarily what team you're from, but as of late, we've noticed it. Like with you, Joe, it's what country you're from. You have guys coming. I know a couple besides you. We know some people who are coming up from the States just to watch the game. I mean, where else can you find a season ticket holder for the Alouettes who lives in New Hampshire and comes to as many games as he can?
Yeah, it's
So
crazy,
I mean,
right?
Yeah, I think Brandon's going to make the Grey Cup this year too. So he's going to
that's who I was referencing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So,
and our show, not this week but last week, we had Greg James, who is who in the Navy, so he's been around the world. He's in Japan right now.
I know.
My co-host Oz Davis is in Budapest for the year. So we had like a literal worldwide CFL podcast last week. That's just blows my mind.
That's amazing. Yeah, so good. Doug Ballinger's in the chat, speaking of our pod family, and he was saying, don't give me that kind of hope, Joe, like that they might do well again next year. Might still be a little painful. Sorry, Doug. I know we were celebrating it a little more than we probably but even still, that's great. Okay, a couple other things I want to touch on before we sign off, because of the media state of the league today. One of the things was that they talked about next year going back to a balanced schedule, and I want to get your guys' feedback on that. I'll throw mine in at the end. So, Joe, let's start with you.
I think it's fantastic.
Yeah,
it's especially for traveling fans. May not mean as much to the fans that have season tickets and go to their team's games and nowhere else. That's still a commitment. But for the fans that travel, the way that the league was setting up the schedule the last couple of years, and in 2021 it made sense. COVID,
right.
We're going to make a mess of everything, and we were just happy to have a season. But like the last 2 years, there was a couple of cities that weren't on Winnipeg's list, and it's okay. I guess I'm not going there this year.
Right.
So it'll be a lot nicer to be able to go, okay, when are they going to be in this city, as opposed to are they going to be in this city?
Correct. I think I know your answer on this, Capper, but I'm still going to ask you.
Well, no, well, yeah. For me though, too, you look at the storylines this year that could not happen. Players returning to their cities, like Gina Lewis as an example, or Trevor Harris, or Cody Fajardo. It's
Andrew Harris never playing back in Winnipeg since since he went to Toronto.
Yeah.
Right.
So many storylines. I know people were complaining about the return of the great, the Grey Cup matchup. It happened so late.
Yes.
It was basically a meaningless game. I think it is. I'm going to love being able to go back to each of these cities again. I have no problem with it. I really don't. I mean, people got to just understand that, yes, we're going to yeah, we did play a team 4 times in a year, but let's leave that back in the 50s and 60s when there really wasn't that much travel,
Mhm.
and so
Mhm.
I'm fine with it. I
Yeah.
really I understood why, but I didn't have a problem with it, but I really don't have a problem with them switching back.
Yeah, no, I'm excited just because then it's what I always knew, right? Which was we were going to play there and they were going to play here. I know I'm going to see all other 8 teams at Commonwealth in a season. And to me that's I like that because I, even when we talk about the tailgate and we talk about the CFL family, Capper, you and Cliffy and Manon coming up for the Montreal game, I want that. I want to have it where every team has an ability to come and we get to host them at the tailgate. And if I'm headed to another city, that I get to see my team, but the people that I want to see in that city too. I
Mhm.
just, so to me, I love the balanced schedule. I'm excited for it. I'm more excited for the fact when we might be able to get that 10th team and then it cuts it even back a little more so that we're not having a bye every week. Like to me, that would be very exciting. And the commissioner did talk a bit about that today too, that they have another very interesting party that they're talking to in Atlantic Canada. So as far as that is concerned, yes or no? Does it happen? Do we get something in Atlanta, Canada at this moment? What's your feeling, Tim?
My thought is, commish, stop teasing, just drop it. But you know what? He actually did take a stance. At least he finally said that if it's going to work, fantastic, let's get it done. If it's not, let's drop it. Yes, would it be a black eye to the CFL? No, I don't think so. I think the original Schooners was more of a black eye than anything else, but let's just get it done. I would love to have a team out in the Maritimes.
Me too.
If you haven't been to the Maritimes, man, you don't know what you're missing. It is a thing in itself. Once you get into New Brunswick and past New Brunswick and get into Nova Scotia and to Labrador and it's a thing in itself. So I'd love to head out there. I mean, a Grey Cup out in Halifax.
Oh,
Oh, I can
I
only
know.
imagine.
I'm in. I'm in. Yeah,
Yeah.
you thought Spirit of Edmonton was fun before. Oh my good lord, it's something else. Yeah, we need one there. We need one in Montreal. We know that.
Mhm,
I mean, we
mhm.
need those Grey Cups. Those are going to be amazing. Joe, what do you think? Yes or no?
Just talk to me when you have a stadium plan. Before that, let's not bring it up ever again.
Yep. Great. Yeah. And I tend to agree. I know the tease was there, but then from here on out, then let's just, yeah, we don't need to talk about it until you got something a little more tangible that actually is going to happen. I think that would be better. So I would like that. Now, got a couple other questions in the chat before we sign off. One is question for Timmy.
Good Lord. You're
I
banned from calling me
Jared
that.
Jared Cambridge. I don't know if you know who that is, but Jared says, being an Als fan as well and having deep connections to the team and fellow players, what does it mean to see Montreal back in the Grey Cup after 13 years?
It is. I have just said I'm over the moon to see them back. I mean, I know every team has gone through it, but you know, the Owls are just so dominant in the early 2000s, and just to have to
Tell me about it.
yeah to what we lived through after AC went down, his concussion and then his retiring. This, it, it was we finally have an owner in PKP. I mean, everything seems to be falling into place. Um, it's just I just love the idea of the Owls being back in the Grey Cup. It's something that the city, I think, is really celebrating. It really is, and it's just hopefully it'll continue more. I mean, we'll see what happens Sunday, but I mean, it's uh, what do they say? Uh, Distance makes the heart grow fonder. It's been 13. It's been 13. It's been 13 years.
Yeah.
So we're coming off of that was the back to backs. So I'm I'm just really going to enjoy this. I really am, because this is a special team. It really is.
Yeah, I agree. I love this. Leanne said, yep, skip the labor pains and get to the birth. East Coast or bust. I love that. That's yeah. Or I know what he did say was, fish or cut bait, but we were all thinking shit or get off the pod. I know that. But anyway, it's good for him to filter that way. Another question here from Chris. Thoughts on the playoffs games potentially staying on Saturdays permanently? Joe, what do you think?
I'm okay with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't really have any other conflicts. I mean, if it's November, if it's June through November, CFL football comes first for me. So whatever else is on the sports schedule that day is not going to affect my viewing choice.
That's fair. Tim, what do you think?
I might not be the person to ask because I don't affect the Canadian ratings.
I guess, but they were talking today about CBS not releasing their ratings, but that the ratings were good. So
that's normal, though. That's normal for CBS. I know
no,
you're going to talk about it, but I mean, here. I'll give you my answer. I'm fine with it.
You're fine.
I'm fine with it. Okay. Yeah, I'm fine with it, because you know what? As we saw this week, compared to last year, Cliff, I went to the game last year. We drove it up on a Friday on the Sunday. Came back. It was basically up and back, the same thing. Okay. We had to come back on the Sunday. I'm fine with it. Giving the extra day, I'm all for it.
I love it, because I think that not only did we see close to, if not complete, sellouts for both of the final games, we saw close to that even for the semifinal games, and both times you saw a number of people traveling to that stadium to watch their team play, which I think the Saturdays make a huge difference. So
and you can hotel it on Saturday night, drive home Sunday, and you're not missing any work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I am a fan of this move. I hadn't even thought of people going to the game until later on, and now that we've seen it happen in a couple of weekends back to back, I quite like those being on Saturday. I like the fact that what's that?
Tough draws too, aren't they?
What's that?
The semifinals are usually tougher draws then.
Oh, sure. Yeah. For like the home team, usually you get your home fans, but you're not getting a bunch of traveling. But if you get a bunch of traveling happening because it's on Saturday, that's even better, right?
I think the numbers for TV actually showed that the numbers that they were saying. I mean, it was grand total. The East final got
was
more
1.3 million and 1.2 for the West.
Was that including RDS? I think including RDS.
It was including RDS.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Like
the other way, you're not going up against the NFL.
Right. Yeah.
So
you're going up against college football. You're going up against, to some degree, it maybe made it a little bit harder to watch the U Sports games, but I don't know. I don't think it was a bad thing. I liked it where it was. So I like that Doug also said that it allowed me to eat my humble pie in peace. So that was nice. It's a good. Yeah, I just listened to that podcast pre-East final. So yeah, I could see that, Doug. I'm glad that you had that quiet time afterwards. And Leanne said it's good on Saturdays because then on Sundays the fans can go to church and beg forgiveness or pray for their teams. I love it. That's fantastic.
Or get over the hangover.
That's right. Yeah, of some before you have to be at work on Monday morning. That's right.
Yeah.
Plus, I mean, come on, tailgating on an early Saturday morning before a game. I'm so in. Like, it's amazing. I love it. One of these days we'll host a playoff game again here. I know that and then
wasn't that going to be tough this year though, with the Heritage Classic, or would that have been cleared out in time?
I don't know the timing. Yeah, I don't know the timing on that. It would have been tough, especially if it was the semi, right? Because by the final it would have been fine, but by the semi would have been an issue. So, well, I mean, we're not going to have a Heritage Classic every year, so that'll be good. Yeah, safe for that. Yeah, exactly. Because that team also sucks. So they won in Commonwealth though, I guess. So I guess you give that.
By the way, since you're talking about the days that it's on, and we're just talking about TV, because I don't know if you had this in your list of what you're going to talk about. What is your thoughts, guys, on TSN RDS versus CFL Plus, because as a CFL fan, we were saying how proud of we are of the game itself. And we understand that CBS Sports Network doesn't show, they don't release their numbers because they're not a Nielsen family
Right.
station. If anybody didn't know, that's why. But it doesn't seem to be sacrilegious not to have the Grey Cup on regular broadcast TV for the first time in who knows how long.
That's the issue I had when this whole thing came out in late May, where they were talking about this, because the US fans get the schedule like a week before the games go. Okay, this is what the channel's going to get this year. Yeah, that struck me as it's going to be awesome for me because I'm semi-technologically savvy, where putting a CFL Plus game on my TV just means I go to the internet browser on my stick and just click it in and I'm fine. But what about the person flipping through channels on a random Sunday, or
somebody who can't watch it because it's not on demand? That to me, that needs to be the improvement. It needs to be on demand. CBS Sports Network doesn't do on demand. If you would know better than I would. I don't think they do on demand, do they?
No, I don't believe so. No. And yeah, so this year, with things not being on demand like they used to be on ESPN Plus, that was tough. It's tough for the casual fan, especially, or anybody just flipping through channels. Like, back when a lot more people had cable, they are not just going to randomly come across it. They're going to have to seek it out. That's going to slow growth in the US, I think. But I mean, we're a small segment of the viewing population anyway, and they are making a lot more money on the CBS deal than they were making with ESPN. So I could see their point there.
I'll take $1 million bucks. I'll take $1 million bucks any year.
What I'd like to see is if they're going to see if they can make CFL Plus a standalone product with its own app, with on demand, with, hey, it'd be great if we got the CFL Wired show. I mean, if I'm dreaming, just wrap up all the CFL content in the CFL Plus app and sell it to either just have a free package where you can stream the games live, or sell a package where, hey, you get on demand, you get all this other stuff going on. That might help boost some revenue for the league too, for fans that they have out there that aren't going to leave them but can't watch the games on the times that they're going. Like I mentioned, I got a friend over in Japan right now. I got a friend over in Budapest right now.
No, I'd love to have that ability, right? To even just to say, okay, well, I have it and I can watch it live, but I don't have time because I have something else going on, but I'll watch it this evening and I'll just stay off social media until then. Like, it's even with TSN up here, you have to wait 24 hours before it goes on. So it's hard to get that, like it's hard to stay off.
TSN's on demand is a joke anyways. God, you're paying for the service and yet you still have to watch their regular commercial ads.
The ads.
Stop this garbage.
Yeah,
it's so bad. I wish we had like an NFL Plus, whatever they're called. What is it? NFL Plus now?
I have no idea.
In the States?
Yeah, I think there's an NFL Plus. There's the Sunday ticket, which gets you the out of market games, but the NFL Plus is the extra stuff.
Yeah. Just give me some type of red zone. No, I'm kidding. Just show me something. Anyway, I would love. Yeah, I'd like to have something where you could easily on demand them. I've paid for the on demand, so don't put commercials in. Just let me watch the game. And
100%.
Let me watch a game in about an hour and 15 minutes or an hour and a half instead of having to.
Even the NFL
sometimes that would be helpful.
I'd take that. If the CFL did that for what the NFL does, I'd be happy with that too. A game in 60.
Yeah, perfect.
When's TSN's contract up? 2025.
You brought that up today too, man. I'm actually really stoked for that.
It's just that's a good time then to talk to them and see what kind of partnership you have going forward to do that kind of thing.
2026.
Yeah, it should be there's some interesting topics that are going to be coming up. And Tim, I know you brought up a topic to me earlier that we won't bring up on this podcast until we get an answer to that question, but we'll try and get some information while we're there and be spreading that out as well. So
for sure.
So, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining in and giving your team's perspective. I know that it's fun when your team is there, but it's also a bit stressful. But I hope that we all get together over the next few days and just enjoy being together as the CFL family, and then you can wait and put your stress hat on at about 3 o'clock on Sunday, so that way it'll be a little more fun. Joe, tell everybody where they find you and your excellent show so that they can keep up with you.
Well, if I had an excellent show, you could find it at Rouge, White, and Blue on just about any of your podcatchers out there. We're on Podbean, but then you can find us Apple Podcasts, Google Play. I believe we're on Spotify. Just anywhere you're getting your podcasts, you can usually find it. We're not into the 21st century yet, so we are not on YouTube yet, but maybe someday. And you can find me on Twitter or Blue Sky at AlouettesFlightDeck, and
Perfect.
off we go.
Fantastic. What about you, Capper?
You can find me on Twix, as Cliff calls it, at Repact. That's REPPACT. If you want to check out all of our archives, you can just go to any of the aggregates also for podcasts, but you can also head over to our archive over at www.AlouettesFlightDeck.ca. And you can also find the audio version also on our YouTube page, and including our first season of Flight Deck Live, which we have just loved doing. It's our first reaction post game show. You can also find that over at YouTube, and that's youtube.com/AlouettesFlightDeck.
Fantastic. And of course, follow our friends, the commissioner at Duchess Lombardi and Mike at 56 Parkies. And of course, the Edmonton History at EDMHISTOREE. Tried to do the dance for Mike so that it's better. So follow them there. Follow me at Freepalicious the Show at the Turf District on all of your different social media platforms. Hey, we're talking about a CFL Plus where they put on a bunch of shows. I know a bunch of shows that do YouTube like every week that you could put on there for video content. No problem. Happy to help. So just see. Oh, points for you, Capper. That was well done. So Morley is proud. So I follow us there and make sure that you're joining in over the next few days. We'll have a couple of live spots there, especially when we do the Dome cast as Chris Agar starts to look like me. Nice. Thank you again for joining us. Thank you for joining us live. No overtime tonight as we are all prepping to be ready on different planes and trips in the next short while. But we will be back, like I said, some live shows during the week, and then we'll be back for the regular show on Tuesday, November the 28th. And we are lining up a couple of guests for that. So thank you again for joining us. For Tim and Joe and Superfan Mike and Commissioner Kayla, I'm Andrew. Remember, I'm going to put this up here. Can't catch footballs with your face, and we will absolutely talk to you next in 2 weeks. Happy Grey Cup week.